Hey, hello, and good afternoon, and welcome everybody to today's workshop. My name is Jason J. Hamilton. I'm a certified financial planner, and every Sunday we're going to bring new workshops to you so that you can continue to build your confidence in your retirement plan, and we're going to give you step-by-step actionable things to do. So today is going to be no different than that. Today we're going to talk about what does retirement mean to you? And this is a question you may have never thought of. You may have just thought of retirement as being this destination that when you stop, here's your work life, and then now there's retirement. And you may have never thought about what you want this, really it could be another third of your life, right? So let's say you're 60 years old and you're retiring and you live to 90. You could have another 50% of your whole life. And so retiring financially is wonderful. That's great. Don't get me wrong. Retiring financially is a great thing to do. But what I find sometimes is working with clients that have been in retirement, once you get past maybe 6 months or 9 months and you get over not having an alarm clock and you get over really not having a schedule, not having to be there somewhere every day at 8 or 9 a.m., then there becomes a little bit of place where maybe you want to have more, maybe you want more out of the time that you have. And so today we're going to talk about 6 questions that are going to really help you get some clarity around what you want, what's going to be good for you, what is important to you. And if you take the answers that you have today and then you apply them, because some of these will have some financial impact, to some of the previous workshops, like creating your retirement budget, because in that workshop, I told you just to create the baseline, right? Just to create your baseline budget, what the basics are. Well, today we're going to ask some questions that are going to help you start building on top of that, because things are going to change generally. You're not always going to spend, $5,000 a year or $10,000 a year on a vacation, every year. So maybe your first 10 years, for example, are going to be a lot more active. That's the normal. And then, let's say years 10 to 20, from there, maybe things slow down a little bit and you're not quite spending as much. So these are things that need to be built into your retirement plan. But I wanted you to start with a baseline foundation of a budget or income need, because these other things are more variable, right? So let's jump in today and talk a little bit about that, because I think it's going to be good for you. Hopefully you enjoy this. And I do recommend that you get a pen and paper. If you have one available, then that would be great to write these down. But at the same time, we're not going to take the time you probably should dedicate to this currently between each question. So you may want to write these questions down, and then maybe when you get your next day off, to sit down somewhere where it's quiet and you can think a little bit and just write out the answers to these, and maybe take 5 minutes and just spend a good solid 5 minutes just writing everything you can about each of these questions, because I think this, at least as a starting point to help you get some clarity, is going to be really good for you. So this is what I recommend to be thinking about at a minimum. So the title of the presentation today is, what does retirement mean to you? 6 questions to ask yourself before taking the leap. Okay, so hopefully you find this helpful. And I'm not saying these are the only 6 questions. I just want to get you started on some things to think about. So let's just jump right into that today. Okay, and then before we jump in, I have my disclosure up here. None of this should be taken as investing, tax, accounting, or legal advice. This is meant to be educational. Okay, so first question is, what does retirement look like to you? Have you ever really thought about this? Have you ever really thought, what does retirement look like to you? Does it look like sitting around and doing nothing all day, and just enjoying the free time that you have? Does it look like maybe starting some new activities? Does it look like doing some things you always wanted to do? Does it look like traveling nonstop around the world for a few years once you get out of work? What does it look like, right? So I want you to take a few minutes, and you're probably going to have to come back, maybe rewatch this video and pause this on each of these questions. And what I recommend is that you take your cell phone, or just take some sort of timer that you have, a kitchen timer or whatnot, and you set it for 5 minutes. And so for each of these questions, if you set a timer for 5 minutes and you get a little notepad and you just write, and just get everything out of your brain, just free write, and just get everything out on paper for what an ideal retirement looks like for you, right? Is it going and just moving to the beach and living on the beach somewhere? Is it spending time with friends and family? What does an ideal retirement look like to you? So this is going to be the first question I want you to start with. And again, go ahead and pause this video, take a few minutes if you're watching this at a later time. But if not, we're going to move on to the next question here. Another big question is, where do you want to live? Okay, are you happy where you're at? There's a lot of folks I speak to that are living in humongous homes that are just more than they need in retirement. And, having a big home while you have a big family is great, but maybe at this point, everybody's moved out. And the thought of the maintenance and just keeping up on a big home, for example, is not something that you're interested in. That's something you might want to think about. Another thing you might want to think about is how is the tax situation in your current state? Because if you're in a high tax state and you move to a low tax state, there's multiple benefits to that potentially. By lowering the required need for your spending, obviously you can retire a little bit earlier or spend a little bit more. I have some clients that are out in New Jersey and they have homes that are in, let's say, the $600,000 range, and I think their taxes are over $10,000 a year, right? Maybe even $14,000 a year just on real estate taxes. So even if your home's paid off, that's a big chunk of money you need to be coming out with, and it's not like that's going to go down over time, right? So that's something that can really play into your retirement perspective. So thinking about where do you want to live, some things to think about too is, do you want to stay close to family if you are close to family? Or maybe you're not close to family and you want to move closer to family, especially grandchildren, because we all know that you probably like your grandchildren more than you like your children at this point. You don't have to be shameful about that. Don't worry about it. You gave your children plenty of love. The grandchildren are so much more fun. And so maybe you want to be closer to them. Maybe you want to spend some more time near them. Or maybe you're somewhere that's cold, and up in like Minnesota, up in New York, up in upstate New York, for example, up in these areas in Ohio where the winters are just brutal, just this bone-chilling cold. Maybe you want to be a snowbird, for example, and you want to spend half the year down in somewhere like Florida, maybe, South Carolina, maybe somewhere down there where it's a little bit more moderate during the winter seasons, and go back and forth. These are some things that you really want to think about, because planning ahead, that if you need to have a second home and looking at shopping some homes before you retire and maybe finding a good deal, maybe you'll find a great deal on a property you can live in post-retirement. So these are some things about where you want to live, I think is something you should really consider. And it's a really big decision. Not saying you can't move. And in all honesty, maybe you don't want to be in one place. Maybe you want to sell the house, buy an RV, travel the country for the first few years, and just check out the rest of the world or the rest of the country and find somewhere through there that you might be able to be more comfortable in. So, but that's a big question. So where do you want to live? That is something that, again, is not permanent, but if you're going to be buying a home, you're going to be staying there for a few years most likely to make it worth that purchase. So, okay, so that's question number 2. All right, so next question here is, how do you see yourself spending time in retirement? Do you see yourself just, with your feet up in the backyard on a lounge chair with a big glass of iced tea next to you, just relaxing and reading all day, enjoying the sun? Do you see yourself getting more involved in things like local community organizations? Do you see yourself being a mentor, for example? I know a lot of folks would love to give back to the younger generations with maybe knowledge or insights that they didn't receive along the way that would have been helpful. Do you see yourself doing those type of things? Do you see yourself maybe writing your own book, right? Maybe starting a small business. That could be something that could be a lot of fun in retirement. And you can even do silly, I shouldn't say silly, but fun things like learning how to sell on eBay to generate a couple $1,000s extra a month. It's actually, there's a lot of people that are going to garage sales every Saturday or buying clearance items at Walmart and then reselling them on sites like eBay and Amazon, and they're generating $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000 a month doing that. And they just like to do that for fun, and at the same time, it keeps you busy. It's like a treasure hunt. What do you see yourself doing, spending your time on in retirement? So I think this is a really important question as well to ask. Okay, so I would spend, again, each of these questions, come back to this video or write these down, set yourself a timer for 5 minutes, and just write, get everything out on paper. I think that's a good way to get yourself going. If you're more of a thinker, maybe you want to spend a few minutes thinking about it first. But sometimes when you have just a little bit of restricted time and you just write and get everything out, it's a good way to get started here with your writing. So next question is, how much do you plan to travel, right? Do you plan on going to see grandchildren more often, for example? Do you want to go to some exotic locations? Do you want to hop in an RV and just travel around? Maybe you just want to do a bunch of local excursions. Maybe you're just too busy during work times to really explore your local area and even get out and go camping and things like that. how much do you plan to travel? Because travel budget is something that I think is really important if something you like to do, because let's be really honest. You have to be really honest is we're not going to be as mobile later in retirement as we are probably early in retirement. So I really encourage my clients to travel as much as possible if that's what they're interested in the early years, because it's not easy sometimes going on hiking up hills or being out on your feet for 4 or 5 hours a day when you're later down the road. So these are things I think you should think about, and in all honesty, I think it's okay to allocate an additional amount of spending early on to do these things, because we probably know that later in the later years, again, you're not going to be spending as much doing travel possibly. So, how much do you plan to travel? And then from there, really thinking about when we look at your retirement projections, what does it look like you can spend on travel without having to really worry about it? So I would put this question, I would really start in order of what's most important to you, right? What's going to bring you the most joy? And is that going to be, again, spending time with friends and family? Is that going to be seeing places in the world you never got to visit when you were working full time because you didn't have time? But I think getting out and seeing some of the world is a good thing, because staying at home is great for a certain amount of time, but at some point you become a hermit. So I think it's good to get out and do some different things. So thinking about this question and how much you want to travel, where to, and then looking at what that might cost on an annual basis for you to do those things, okay? So that'd be the next question I'd recommend that you ask. All right. And then this question is a big one, right? This is a big question that it might take you a little more than 5 minutes of writing to really dig into this, because I think, for a lot of folks, retirement is a time to not just go from work to nothing, right? It's a time to now be able to do all those things that you wanted to do in the past, but you just couldn't do because time was limited, right? So, I bring up starting a business because starting a business is fun. And if you have enough money to the side to do something like that, and you can just do something that brings you joy, maybe you like to make cakes and you want to sell them. I have a friend that's very talented at making like really interesting cakes. And I know she can sell those cakes for a couple $100s a piece. And so that could be a great income for her if she wanted to do that. Maybe it's going back to school. I know a lot of folks want to go back to school and keep their brain active, which I think is amazing. Keeping your brain active after you're out of work is really, really important. I don't think sometimes people really understand the importance of keeping our minds active as part of our overall health, right? Because physical health is one thing, but mental health is also very important. And if your mind is not challenged and not opened up to new things, and not, maybe bringing in new thoughts on a regular day, sometimes we can just really deteriorate. And so I think, maybe going back to school, or at least taking some classes at a local college, which in many states can actually be free. So you may have not inquired about this, but in many states, if you are over 60 years old, you can go back to school and take classes for free or at a very reduced rate. So if that's something important to you, maybe you want to think about that. And then something like home remodels. I mean, a lot of people I talk to want to do some home remodels after retirement. So these are pretty major changes. If you think about like remodeling your whole kitchen, for example, you may be out of a kitchen for like 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days while this is being taken care of. So these are some major changes that could be going on in your life. So do you plan on making any major changes? If so, what might they be? And then maybe you want to put a timeline of where you might want to make those changes, because maybe you want to do some of these things each year, and mapping those out as part of your overall retirement plan is something that could be, really valuable to you. So really simple questions, but I actually think these are pretty deep questions if you take the time to dig in and really think about them and what you want to have. Okay. And the final question I think I have here that I'm going to leave you with today is what is it that you have always wanted to do and now will have the time to accomplish? Okay. This is a time that you have two options. Okay. You can take everything for what it is and just let life happen to you and let things come as they may. Or you can take complete control of this new stage in life and make sure you get as many things done that have always been on your mind that you wanted to do. And you can call them bucket list items, you call them whatever they want to be, whatever you like. But I think your goal going into retirement, because at some point we're all going to leave this existence, right? It should be to get as many things done that are important to you so that you can have the least amount of regrets, if not zero regrets, when you go on to this next existence, right? So many times over the years, we're just restricted to do the things we really want to do. Maybe that's because of work is too busy. Maybe we were taking care of other people. We had children. We had spouses. We have whatever was going on that you just didn't have the time to do the things you've always wanted to do. And now that you have unlimited time, the problem is sometimes is you have too much open space, and without really structuring some things that are important to you and making sure that they get done, putting them on a calendar and taking incremental steps every day, you may just have months go by or maybe even years go by and not get these things done that are important to you. So I would really encourage you to take some serious time to go outside, sit somewhere in nature, somewhere where it's quiet, leave your cell phone behind, and just start creating a list of the things that you have always wanted to do, and now that you'll have the time to accomplish, and start getting those in order, getting those organized so that you can prioritize that list. And then when you're going to create your retirement plan, in general, for most people, finances are not an unlimited resource. We need to allocate, our finances on how much we're going to use each year, and then being able to tie those financial capabilities back to the goals that you have and the things you've always wanted to do, and putting those in an order. I think that's going to give you the best chance to, make it out of this existence with the least amount of regret. So, sometimes you may not know what you can do, because I think from a financial perspective, you really have to know where you're at in retirement to answer these questions in deep clarity, and we'll get there. We'll work through some of that. But I want you to start here with just getting some things on paper, just dream a little bit. Just take some time to really think about yourself, right? And, I'm not saying it's not good. It is good to think about others. But I think sometimes it's good to just think about yourself and be a little bit selfish. And I'm giving you permission to do that, okay? You have full permission from Jason, who knows, it's Jason on Facebook. Don't take it that seriously. But you have full permission to sit down and just think about yourself for a while. Be completely selfish and just sit and answer these questions so that you can make the most of what retirement is going to look like for you, okay? So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you maybe gained some insights and maybe have some questions here now, and maybe a path for you to start thinking about the things that you want to do when it is time for you to make that transition and you can open up some more free time, okay? So if this is something, that maybe you have some things and you're not sure about, what you can do, or if you can afford these different things, and really how to map out your retirement strategy to make sure that you're maximizing the answers to these questions that we laid out for you today, well, I'd like to offer you a complimentary consultation. You can come meet with me. It's no charge. About 45 minutes to an hour we'll spend on planning your retirement and really helping you think through the big roadblocks to getting you there. And if you'd like to schedule an appointment, it's keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk. Like I said, it's complimentary. And what we'll do is spend about 45 minutes just talking about all the different aspects of the financial components that you should be thinking about from going from where you're at to where you want to go into retirement. And I'm going to help you create a game plan to do that. Okay, so that's there for you. I'm going to take a few minutes here if you have any questions. If you're watching this at a later time, thank you so much for watching, and head on. Definitely come back to this module a couple times and really think through these questions and make sure that you take the time that you deserve for your retirement, okay? I appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to check if we have any questions here. And if not, then that is okay, and we'll wrap up for today. So if there's no questions, how are you guys doing, by the way? I haven't seen, is everyone having a good summer? Are you enjoying your life? Is everything going well for you? This is something I think... Good. Okay. So, I don't see questions here, so maybe you'll watch this at a later time and you have a question, go ahead and drop it down in the comments and I'll come back in and try to answer those for you. But do this. Give this gift to yourself this week, okay? Give this gift to yourself. This spending time on yourself with some peace and quiet is an absolute gift that you should be giving to yourself, okay? So really think through what you want this new sector of your life to be. Once you're free, right? Once you're free from the shackles of requiring to go to employment every day, what do you want to do? Do you want to get back into another sort of employment that you just enjoy? Do you want to just spend more time with family? Do you want to sit around and do not a whole lot? but I just want you to take this time this week, find 10 minutes, okay? If you don't have 10 minutes this week, you don't have a life, okay? I can tell you that for sure. So take 10 minutes this week, on maybe each of these questions, and start answering these over time and get a really clear list of what you want to do. You can use my strategy of setting your timer for 5 minutes and just doing a free write, or you can just go sit somewhere where it's quiet and just, let your mind drift a little bit. But just get these questions answered for yourself and get those down, because as we're moving through this retirement course workshop, we're going to continue to build on the things we're putting together so that you have your foundation for a wonderful retirement, okay? Other than that, guys, I appreciate you so much watching. Once again, my name is Jason Hamilton, the Certified Financial Planner and the admin of this page and group. If you need anything at all, just let me know. Other than that, have a great afternoon, all right? Bye-bye now.